My name is Susan Lee. I'm 58 years old. For the past 30 years, I've lived serving my mother-in-law, Margaret Park. My daily routine started at 5 a.m. sharp, preparing breakfast for my mother-in-law. Susan, why is this seaweed soup so salty? I told you yesterday to make it bland. My mother-in-law's voice reached the kitchen. I went to adjust the seasoning again. Margaret was 84 years old, but her voice remained clear and sharp. I'm sorry, Mother. I'll make it again. Yes, hurry up. It's time for my morning medicine. I bowed my head and returned to the kitchen. For 30 years, since I was a young bride in my mid-20s, I had never once talked back to my mother-in-law. My husband Michael always took his mother's side, and I just endured and endured again. Margaret always complained about being poor. Our family has no money, was her constant refrain. So I worked part-time at a supermarket to help with living expenses. Even when my back ached and my knees hurt, I endured and worked. Susan, Emily is asking for money again. Do something about it. My sister-in-law Emily Park was 55 but still unmarried. She frequently changed jobs and always claimed to be short of money. Whenever that happened, I had to help with money I earned. I understand, Mother. I withdrew $500 from my account and gave it to my sister-in-law. I'd lost count of how many times this had happened. I had no time to think about my own retirement funds. At lunchtime, Margaret called me again. Susan, I need to go to the hospital today. Give me taxi money. Yes, Mother. I took $20 from my wallet and gave it to her. Even while receiving it, Margaret looked dissatisfied. Taxi fares are so expensive these days. Life is really hard. That evening, my husband Michael came home from work. I had prepared dinner and was waiting. Honey, thank you for your hard work today. Yeah, you worked hard too. Michael sat on the sofa looking tired. I told him that Mother had asked for taxi money again. Mother's medical bills aren't cheap. Shouldn't we help her more? Michael nodded. That's right. Mother has suffered all her life. I felt suffocated. Where had all the money I'd earned over 30 years gone? The only asset we had in our names was this old apartment. That night, I couldn't sleep and tossed and turned. My eldest son David was doing well in America, but he wasn't very interested in us. When I get old, who can I rely on? Such thoughts occurred to me. Susan, bring me some water. I heard Margaret's voice. I got up and brought her water. Margaret took the water and drank it, then spoke to me. You must be tired now that you're getting older too. But hang in there a little longer. When I die, everything will be easier. What are you saying? I don't want to live long either. What's the point of living in poverty like this? Hearing Margaret's words made my heart even heavier. I returned to my room and spent another sleepless night. A week later, while preparing breakfast as usual, I heard strange sounds from Margaret's room. I rushed over immediately. Margaret was trembling on the bed. Her face had turned pale blue. Mother, I panicked and called 911. I also urgently contacted Michael. Margaret was taken to the hospital unconscious. The doctor said it was early symptoms of a stroke. Fortunately, she had passed the major danger, but she needed hospitalization for a while. Are you the patient's guardian? Given her age, she'll need nursing care. Yes, I'll take care of her. I answered without hesitation. Michael said he was busy with work and could only visit briefly in the evenings. My sister-in-law Emily barely answered calls. Taking care of Margaret in the hospital room was harder than I thought. I had to wake up every 2 or 3 hours at night to check on her. But I didn't complain. It was what I'd been doing for 30 years. On the third day, Margaret began to regain consciousness gradually. Is this the hospital? Yes, Mother. You collapsed, so we brought you here. Margaret slowly looked around. Then she suddenly showed an anxious expression. Susan, our house. Is our house okay? Yes, don't worry. I check on it every day. My room. Don't touch my room. You understand? There was an unusual tension in Margaret's voice. I nodded. Yes, Mother. But I found it strange. Why would she suddenly tell me not to touch her room? For 30 years, I had always cleaned Margaret's room. That evening Michael came to the hospital. How is Mother's condition? She's much better. She should be able to eat porridge starting tomorrow. That's a relief. Susan, you haven't rested properly for several days. Go home and rest today. I shook my head. It's okay. Mother is still anxious. Still, your health is important too. Michael patted my shoulder. It seemed like the first time in 30 years he acknowledged my hardship. My heart felt a little warmer. That night, Margaret kept talking in her sleep. No, the safe. Nobody. Safe. I listened carefully. But Margaret became quiet again. I had a strange feeling. There's a safe in Margaret's room? I've never seen one in 30 years of cleaning. The next morning, Margaret was much better. She ate porridge well and spoke clearly. Susan, you've been through so much. No, Mother. It's natural. You are really a grateful daughter-in-law. Margaret held my hand. Strangely, tears were forming in her eyes. It was the first time I'd ever seen Margaret like this. Mother, are you all right? Yeah. I'm fine. I just feel sorry. I couldn't understand what Margaret meant. What was she sorry about? But I didn't ask more. The doctor said she could be discharged after about another week of hospitalization. I felt relieved, but at the same time, what I heard last night about the safe kept circling in my mind. On the 5th day of Margaret's hospitalization, household chores had piled up. While Margaret was taking her afternoon nap, I briefly headed home. Mother, I'll go home for a bit. I need to clean up. Okay, be careful. When I arrived home, it showed signs of being empty for a week. Dust had accumulated and the plants looked wilted. I began cleaning diligently. I cleaned the living room, kitchen, and my room. Finally, I entered Margaret's room. Normally I would have cleaned it as a matter of course, but her words from a few days ago, "Don't touch my room," kept bothering me. But I couldn't just leave a room unventilated for a week. I carefully opened the door. There was a strange smell in the room. Like mold. I opened the window and ventilated it. Then I noticed something glinting under the bed. I bent down to look closely and found a small key. I picked up the key. It wasn't an ordinary key but looked somehow special. What is this key for? I remembered Margaret's sleep talking about a safe. Could this key be for a safe? I looked around the room. Wardrobe, desk, dressing table. The furniture I'd always seen. But today something felt different. Especially the wardrobe seemed strange. The wardrobe was flush against the wall, but there was a tiny gap between the wall and wardrobe. Out of curiosity, I pushed the wardrobe slightly. What? The wardrobe moved more easily than expected. When I pushed it back, a small door appeared in the wall. There was a hidden space. My heart started beating fast. A secret space I didn't know about in 30 years of living in this house. I tried opening that door with the key in my hand. What is this? When the door opened, a small safe appeared. Inside it were things I could never have imagined. Dozens of bank books, real estate documents, and bundles of cash. I took out the bank books with trembling hands. The moment I opened the first bank book, I sat down right there. 500 million? The bank balance exceeded $500 million? The second book had 300 million. The third had 700 million. I rubbed my eyes and looked again, but the numbers didn't change. There were also real estate documents. 2 apartments in Manhattan, 1 commercial building. At market value, it would easily be worth billions. What is all this? I sat there in a daze for a while. My mind went blank. Margaret, who had said, "Our family is poor," for 30 years. Those years when I even contributed money I earned part-time to living expenses. Then my phone rang. It was a call from the hospital. "Guardian, the patient is awake and keeps asking for you." "Oh, yes, I'll be right there." I hurriedly organized the safe. I took photos of several bank books and documents. Then I put everything back as it was. On the way back to the hospital, my mind was complicated. Why did Margaret tell such lies? And did my sister-in-law Emily know about this? When I arrived at the hospital room, Margaret greeted me with an anxious expression. "Susan, where did you go?" "I went home to clean." You didn't touch my room, right?" There was clear tension in Margaret's voice. I tried to maintain a calm expression. "No, Mother, I didn't touch it," but my heart wasn't calm. Margaret, who had deceived me for 30 years. And probably this family secret that only I didn't know about. I didn't know what to do next. That night I couldn't sleep. Margaret slept deeply, but my mind was filled with thoughts of the bank books in the safe. Billions in assets. 30 years of lies that deceived me. I finally fell asleep around 5 a.m. But even in my dreams, those bank books appeared. What I could do with that money. Or rather, whether that money really belonged to Margaret. Susan, time to wake up. I woke to Margaret's voice. It was already 7 a.m. I hurriedly got up to prepare breakfast. But unlike usual, my perspective on Margaret had changed. Mother, please have your breakfast porridge. Yes, thank you. Margaret quietly ate her porridge as usual. But I kept observing her. Was she really like a poor elderly woman? Or was she acting while hiding billions? Around lunchtime, Michael came to the hospital. Mother, how are you feeling? Much better. Susan has been taking good care of me. Michael thanked me too. But even looking at Michael, I was suspicious. Did my husband also know about Mother's wealth? Honey, come out for a moment. I called Michael to the corridor. I decided to ask carefully. Honey, do you know anything about Mother's financial situation? Financial situation? What finances are you talking about? Michael's expression looked confused. I mean, whether Mother might have some hidden money. Susan, what are you talking about? You know how difficult Mother's situation is. Even what we help with isn't enough. From Michael's reaction, he seemed to really not know. Or was he doing excellent acting? Well, I was just suddenly curious. Don't worry about Mother's medical bills. We'll take care of it. Michael patted my shoulder and went into the hospital room. I stood in the corridor, lost in thought. Was I really the only one who had learned this secret? That afternoon, my sister-in-law Emily came to visit. She was wearing heavier makeup than usual and new clothes. Mother, how are you feeling? Emily, thanks for coming. Sister, you're working hard. Emily greeted me, but it felt awkward somehow. I decided to test Emily too. Emily, how's life these days? Just getting by. Did you find work? Not yet. There aren't any good job opportunities. Emily still spoke as if she lacked money. But seeing her new handbag and expensive cosmetics, something seemed odd. That's a pretty bag though. Did you buy it recently? Emily showed a momentarily flustered expression. Oh, this? A friend gave it to me. A friend? Yes. She said she wasn't using it. I thought Emily's reaction was suspicious. Did this person also know about Margaret's wealth? When evening came, Emily got up. Mother, I'll come again tomorrow. Okay, be careful going home. After Emily left, Margaret called me. Susan, don't give Emily spending money for a while. What? That girl seems to be spending money carelessly lately. She needs education. I found it strange. Margaret, who usually asked me to give Emily money, why was she suddenly saying this? I understand, Mother. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Was the whole family sharing secrets that only I didn't know? Or had I really accidentally learned about it alone? My mind was complicated. Margaret was sleeping deeply. Seeing her peaceful face while sleeping made me feel even more frustrated. Why did she tell such lies? And what should I do from now on? 10 days after Margaret's hospitalization, the doctor gave permission for discharge. The diagnosis was that she had recovered without major problems. Mother, you can go home now. Really? You've been through so much, Susan. Margaret was happy, but I had mixed feelings. Going home meant facing that secret safe again. I still didn't know how to accept that fact. When we arrived home, Margaret went to her room first. I followed, carefully observing. My room. Really nobody touched it, right? No, Mother. I just ventilated it. Margaret looked around the room carefully. She examined the area around the wardrobe particularly closely. It seemed like she was checking if I had discovered something. Good, Susan. From now on I'll clean my room myself. Don't trouble yourself too much. Mother, it's okay. I'll do it for you. No, now I can do it myself. Margaret spoke firmly. I could no longer clean the room. She was definitely hiding something. That evening, Michael came home after work. Mother, it's good to be home, isn't it? Yes, home is the best after all. Susan, you really worked hard. Taking care of her for 10 days. Michael touched my shoulder, but I couldn't feel warmth like before. I kept having suspicions that this person might also be deceiving me. The next day, I went to the market to shop. I bought ingredients that Margaret usually liked. But while paying, I suddenly had a thought. This money was also what I had earned, and Margaret had billions while never contributing a penny to living expenses. When I returned home to prepare lunch, Margaret said, "Susan, Emily is asking for money again. What should we do? You decide, Mother." "Well, let's not give it to her for now. That girl seems too dependent." I found it strange. Usually she would have told me to give Emily money unconditionally. Did she notice that I had discovered the safe? That afternoon, I decided to gather courage and ask Margaret, "Mother, may I ask you something?" "What? Is there any assets in our house that I don't know about?" Margaret's expression hardened instantly. What are you talking about?" I was suddenly curious. If something happens to you, I wondered what we should do. "Susan, what assets could our house have?" "There's nothing but this old house." Margaret answered the same as usual, but there was a subtle tremor in her voice. "Then, where are the bank books in your name?" "Bank books? There aren't any. At most just a little spending money." It was a lie. The bank books I saw had billions. I confirmed that Margaret was lying to the end. "I understand, Mother." I didn't ask any more. Instead, I made a decision in my heart. I couldn't just let this situation pass. That night, after Margaret fell asleep, I quietly got up. I wanted to check the safe once more. Maybe I had made a mistake. I carefully opened the door and entered. Margaret was sleeping deeply. I slowly pushed the wardrobe. The safe was still there. The key was in the same place too. I took out the bank books again to check. As expected, the numbers weren't a mistake. There really were billions of dollars in Margaret's name. This time I examined the documents more carefully. Looking at the real estate documents, in addition to 2 Manhattan apartments, there were commercial buildings and land. The total market value would easily exceed $10 billion. This can't be. Margaret, who had exploited me for 30 years claiming poverty. Margaret, who even took the money I earned part-time for living expenses. She was actually a billionaire. I felt anger rising, but I held it back. Now was the time to think calmly. How to use this fact. A few days later, I discovered another shocking fact. While Margaret was taking her afternoon nap, I was cleaning in the living room when my sister-in-law Emily suddenly came to visit. "Sister, where's Mother?" "She's sleeping." "Why?" Emily looked around and then whispered to me, "Sister, could you help with this month's allowance? Mother said not to give it for now." "What? Why?" Seeing Emily's panicked expression, I was certain there was something going on. I asked tentatively, "Emily, do you know about Mother's financial situation?" What do you mean?" I was curious where Mother usually gets money for allowances." Emily's expression changed subtly. She seemed to be hiding something. I think she gets a pension." "Could a pension alone cover our living expenses too?" "Well, there's also the money you earn, sister." Then Margaret came out of her room. "Emily, when did you arrive?" "Just now, Mother." "Susan, make some tea for Emily." I went to the kitchen to prepare tea. But I could eavesdrop on the conversation between Margaret and Emily in the living room. "Mother, about this month's allowance." "Emily, you seem to be spending money too carelessly lately." "It's not that. I have something I need." "Hold back for now. Don't talk about money in front of Susan." "Why? What's wrong with sister?" Lately she keeps asking strange questions about money." I kept listening while bringing out the tea. Could sister have noticed something? Impossible. She's lived without knowing for 30 years. Still, I think we should be careful. I know. Let's be careful for now. I was shocked. Emily really did know about Margaret's wealth. What about Michael then? While serving tea, I tried to maintain a calm expression. "Please enjoy." "Thank you, Susan." Emily and Margaret naturally changed the subject. But I could no longer be deceived. That evening when Michael came home, I decided to check one last time. "Honey, do you also know about Mother's assets?" "That story again? Susan, why do you keep thinking about that?" From Michael's reaction, he seemed to really not know. Or he was doing excellent acting. Emily keeps asking for allowance. Emily has no job and is struggling, so she can't help it. But looking at Emily's recent clothes and bag. What? Did Emily buy something? Seeing Michael show interest, he seemed to really not know. No, they just looked pretty. That night, I was certain. Only Margaret and Emily shared this secret. And Michael and I had been deceived for 30 years. At dawn, I woke up to go to the bathroom and passed by Margaret's room. when I heard a phone conversation inside. Emily, it's me. Yes, Susan keeps acting strange. Just in case. I see, let's be careful for now. Margaret was having a phone conversation with Emily at dawn. Talking about me. I returned to my room and pulled the blanket over my head. My whole body was trembling. Trembling with anger. 30 years. These people who made me a fool for 30 years. I couldn't stand it anymore. I thought I needed to make my own plans. Starting the next day, I began making plans in earnest. If I had been deceived for 30 years, I thought it was time for me to take control. First, I needed to accurately identify all of Margaret's assets. I waited for Margaret to sleep every night and checked the documents in the safe. I took photos of all bank books and documents with my phone. When I organized everything, it was truly amazing. Total deposits of $1.5 billion, real estate including 2 Manhattan apartments and 3 commercial buildings, plus land throughout New York State. At market value, it would easily exceed $5 billion. Is all this really Margaret's? I had doubts. How did Margaret accumulate such a huge fortune? Could it be inheritance left by my late father-in-law? That question was answered a few days later. I found old documents deep in the safe. Looking at those documents, I was even more shocked. Most of the assets had been transferred from my father-in-law's name to Margaret's name. But looking closely at the inheritance documents, there was something strange. Originally, Michael and Emily should have had inheritance shares too, but all assets were solely in Margaret's name. What's going on? I investigated more thoroughly. I checked real estate registration online and looked up inheritance-related information. As a result, I learned a shocking fact. Margaret had monopolized all assets by manipulating inheritance documents after my father-in-law's death. Michael and Emily had been deceived without receiving their rightful inheritance shares. No, Emily knew about it. So only Michael didn't know? That evening, I carefully asked Michael, "Honey, what happened with inheritance when father passed away?" Inheritance? There wasn't much. Mother took care of everything. Could there really have been nothing? Susan, why do you keep worrying about that? Mother would have handled it properly. Michael really didn't know anything. He had been living for 30 years deprived of his rightful inheritance share. Anger welled up in me. Margaret hadn't just deceived me. She had deceived even her own son and monopolized the assets. A few days later, I found more decisive evidence. Letters exchanged between Margaret and Emily. They were hidden in one corner of the safe, and I was horrified by the contents. "Emily, you must never tell Susan and Michael. It's our secret." "Mother, don't worry. Sister is so naive she won't even suspect. Michael is the same. That fool son will live his whole life without knowing. Then when can I receive my share?" "Wait a little longer. When I die, everything will be yours." After reading the letters, everything became clear. Margaret and Emily had conspired from the beginning to deceive our couple. And Emily planned to inherit all assets when Margaret died. I can't stand this anymore. I finally decided to take action. But I couldn't move rashly. I needed a careful plan. First, I stored all evidence in a safe place. I rented a bank safety deposit box and put photos and copies of documents there. I also consulted with a lawyer. In this case, an inheritance nullification lawsuit seems possible. Hearing the lawyer's words, I had hope. It seemed I could recover Michael's rightful inheritance share. But I didn't immediately take legal action. Rather, I wanted to see Margaret and Emily panic. I wanted revenge for making me a fool for 30 years. I smiled quietly. It was time for the game to begin. Finally, the moment I had been waiting for 30 years arrived. I finished all preparations and decided to expose the truth in front of my family. One Sunday evening, when Michael was home and Emily had also come to see Margaret, with the whole family gathered, I quietly brought up the topic. "I'd like to have a family meeting." "What meeting?" Michael asked. "There's something important to discuss." I placed an envelope of documents I had prepared in advance on the table. I saw Margaret and Emily's expressions change subtly. "Everyone, I have lived as a daughter-in-law in this house for 30 years. I served my mother-in-law devotedly and contributed even my own earnings to supplement our living expenses because of claims of poverty." "Susan, what are you suddenly?" Margaret tried to interrupt, but I continued. "But a few days ago, I learned a shocking truth. I took bank book copies from the envelope and spread them on the table. Mother, what is this? Margaret's face turned pale. Emily couldn't hide her panicked expression either. Where did this come from? I found it in Mother's room. In a hidden safe. Michael picked up the bank books. Is this Mother's bank book? The balance is 500 million? 700 million? What is all this? Michael was confused. I explained calmly. Mother has been pretending to be poor for 30 years while deceiving us. In reality, she has billions in assets. Billions? Yes. Including real estate, it would exceed 5 billion. Michael looked at Margaret. Mother, is this really true? Margaret remained silent for a long time, then bowed her head. Susan is right. Then we've been. I'm sorry, Michael. I continued exposing more shocking truths. And most of this wealth is inheritance left by father. Originally, both Michael and Emily should have had inheritance shares, but Mother manipulated the documents to monopolize everything. What? Michael shouted. I also showed inheritance-related documents. And Emily knew about this. She conspired with Mother to deceive us. All eyes turned to Emily. Emily could no longer deny it. Sister, I'm sorry. 30 years. You made us fools for 30 years? My voice contained 30 years of accumulated anger. You took even the money I earned part-time while pretending to be poor? Making me give Emily allowance with my money? Margaret spoke with a trembling voice. Susan, I'm sorry. Really sorry. Now you're sorry? I played my final card. I've already consulted with a lawyer. I'm preparing an inheritance nullification lawsuit. Lawsuit? Michael was surprised. Yes, I'll recover your rightful inheritance share. Then Margaret suddenly knelt down. Susan, please, forgive me. Mother, for 30 years, I was really wrong. Using you was wrong. But I didn't change my mind. Mother, it's too late. I want to live a new life now. I handed Michael divorce papers I had prepared. Honey, please sign this too. Divorce? Susan, why suddenly? You always took Mother's side for 30 years. You ignored me no matter how difficult things were. I didn't know either. Now you know, so that's good. Get your share back and live happily with Mother and Emily. I stood up and picked up my bag. Starting today, I'm going to begin a new life. I endured for 30 years, so now I'll live my own life. Susan, don't go. Michael tried to stop me, but I didn't turn back. At the door, I looked back one last time. Oh, all the evidence is stored in a safe place. The lawsuit preparation is already finished. The lawyer will contact you. My steps leaving the house were light. It felt like putting down the heavy burden I'd carried for 30 years. Heading to the small studio apartment I had secured in advance, I smiled. I had already explained the whole situation to my eldest son David, and he said he supported me. Mom, you've really suffered for 30 years. Now live your own life. David's words came to mind. Though late, I was grateful that I could still find my own life. A few days later, I received word through the lawyer that the lawsuit had begun. It was a lawsuit to recover Michael's rightful inheritance share. I didn't hate Michael. He was also a victim who had been deceived like me. A month later, a settlement proposal came from Margaret and Emily. They would divide the assets with Michael and give me compensation for my 30 years of devotion. I accepted that proposal. Revenge wasn't my purpose. I just wanted justice to be served. With the compensation money, I opened a small cafe. It was a lifelong dream. I named it Susan's Little Haven. Running the cafe, I felt true happiness. It was work I did by my own will, and I enjoyed the warm conversations with customers. 6 months later, Michael came to the cafe. Susan, please sit, I'll bring you a cup of coffee. Michael carefully spoke up. I'm sorry, really sorry. I may want to make excuses that I didn't know either, but it was still my fault for not protecting you. It's okay now, it's all in the past. Could we start over? I shook my head. Honey, we're already finished. Let's walk different paths. Michael was disappointed but didn't try to hold on anymore. He left saying Margaret's health had deteriorated significantly. A year later, I heard news that Margaret had passed away. I attended the funeral too. They said she left a will apologizing. At the funeral home, Emily approached me. Sister, I'm really sorry. It's okay now. I forgive everyone. I truly forgave. Life is too short to live with resentment. Now I'm 62 years old. Though it's a late age, I feel like I'm the master of my own life. I'm happy with the small daily interactions with regular cafe customers. Sometimes young daughters-in-law come to the cafe and vent about their difficulties with mothers-in-law. Whenever that happens, I tell them, don't just endure. Your life is precious too. Since it's advice from someone who endured for 30 years, they listen attentively. I no longer live in anyone's shadow. I'm living the life I want, in my name, by my will. Though it's late, I think my real life has just begun. In the cafe where sunlight streams in, I greet customers today as well. In my place that I finally found, with a genuinely happy smile.